We are recording at long last on Monday, August 21st, 2023 at 2:21 p.m. Eastern Time with Mr. Doug Cirignano. We're talking about American conspiracies and cover-ups. It's a fantastic conspiracy book. As everyone knows, I love conspiracies because in most of them are true and provable U.S. history with documents and video to back it up. So I think conspiracy is more of a derogatory term. The link to that book will be in the description. It is on Audible. It's a fantastic listen. And I want to jump into one aspect of it in particular. But before I do that, Doug, could you please introduce yourself while I'll post a live link?
Oh, great. Yeah. Well, the name of my book is Douglas Cirignano. I'm Doug or Douglas, and it's American Conspiracies and Cover-Ups, published by Skyhorse Publishing. They're the same publisher who published Bobby Kennedy's books and Roger Stone and Jesse Ventura. So it's one of the best-selling conspiracy theory books on the internet. And actually, my editor was the same editor who edited some of Roger Stone's books. Did you ever have
No, I've tried to get him on, Roger. I've tried to get him on. I think I got pretty close to having him on like a year or two ago, and then it fell through, and he kind of went dark on me.
So the book with interviews with some of the most famous conspiracy theory authors in the world. Got Jim Mars on the New World Order, G. Edward Griffin.
Yeah, Jekyll Island.
Yeah. And Noam Chomsky, the professor. I got a lawyer who worked for Lyndon Johnson talking about the Kennedy assassination. So there's 12 of them all together. They're interviews, so they read fast. So it's sort of fun to read. A lot of people are giving me 5-star reviews on Amazon, so that's good.
Yeah, no, it's a fantastic conspiracy book. And with I interview so many authors and listen to so many books that I find myself really trying to glom on to like one thing that maybe I learned that I didn't know about. And also I think it's kind of important to maybe touch on ones that haven't been so widely covered. I think JFK assassination obviously is the largest for a good reason. It was a sitting U.S. president. But I think the farther back we go and find evidence of conspiracies, I mean, within even just our own country, I think that's important because what it does is it shows you that this isn't some new phenomena, right? It's, my parents are, these kids are on their phones. And I'm like, yeah, and, your parents didn't they were yelling at y'all because you were watching TV with long hair. And their parents probably yelled at them because they had the radio, and their parents yelled at them because if you have a Model T, you don't appreciate a horse and forever. Okay. Yeah. So it kind of helps humanize all eras. You go, oh, every generation thinks that the one after them are a bunch of ungrateful shits, and they think the ones before them are, how life should have been. And that kind of makes current life more acceptable. You go, oh, this is the natural course of things. And if I ever have kids, I'll look at them and say, these damn kids and their blah, blah, blah. So the point of me saying that is when you find evidence of a conspiracy going back farther than what I think most people think of, kind of Kennedy, I think it makes it a little more. I'm fine with it. I'm all in on conspiracies, but for people who are maybe wishy-washy on the edge, I don't know if it's true. I don't know if the government would do that. It makes the Overton window a little wider, and it adds some lubricant to it and allows you to slip in a little bit more easily. And so with that kind of preface, I want to kind of go into the evidence that Pearl Harbor was not so much an attack out of the blue, more so that it was fomented. We knew it was coming and we let it happen. And I cannot for the life of me remember the term you used. It was a listening network in the Pacific. Brilliant something.
The splendid arrangement.
Splendid arrangement. I made a note of it. Could you maybe go in and explain to people what splendid arrangement is and why it gives more credence to the idea that FDR and the top brass let Pearl Harbor happen?
Yeah, that's the first interview in my book. I interviewed Robert Stinnett. He's a World War II veteran. Wrote a book, All the Evidence That They Let Pearl Harbor Happen. Splendid arrangement was they had all these radio listening stations all over the Pacific. And ever since the 1920s, they knew what Japan's government was doing. So to say that they didn't, Washington knew because they were listening to all their radio messages. So to say that we didn't know they were going to come to Pearl Harbor, it's really illogical. And I put a lot of other evidence in there. The main piece of evidence he had, Stinnett, is the government always said we weren't intercepting the radio messages, but he because of the Freedom of Information Act, he was allowed to go into the National Archives and see that we were intercepting all the messages that that Japan was sending. And the military leader, once in November, he sent a message to the ships going towards Pearl Harbor. The task force shall advance into Hawaiian waters, and upon the very opening of hostilities, shall attack the main force of the United States fleet in Hawaii and deal it a mortal blow. You know, we intercepted that message and a bunch of others like that. Also, there was a spy in Pearl Harbor sending messages back to Japan. And on December 2nd, he sent a message on no changes observed. So far, they do not seem to have been alerted. On December 5th, he said, there are no barrage balloons up, and there is an opportunity for a surprise attack against these places. How could the White House not have known that they were coming to attack us? They knew it, and they let it happen.
And that goes to the idea of, and we needed to get into World War II, right? World War I was largely isolationist, and then Woodrow Wilson went back on it, and we got involved. And then World War II, I mean, you can go back and you can find all of the news articles, right? Where it's like a case for staying out of Europe. And I mean, you gotta have a little perspective, right? We are in the future to them, and we can look back and see how it all plays out. It's neatly bookended on September 1st, 1939. Hitler invaded. It's just ba 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 ba, and then it's the end, right? But you don't know that when you're in it, right? Right now, we're in a chaotic. We're coming out of COVID. You have Russia going into Ukraine. You have China wanting to move on Taiwan. You have instability in Africa. It's all very foggy right now. So I think it is important to maybe look at them and go, yeah, they wanted to stay out. Why should we be involved?
Yeah, the public wants to stay out. The public wants to stay out.
I guess it comes down to this and maybe we're splitting hairs. Was it a lesser evil to let that happen and get us involved? And that's a dark question to ask, right? Because 3,000 Americans died there. Now that we know it's in the future, now that we know exactly what Hitler was doing, how do you balance out that? That's a tough question to ask. I have veterans on here all the time. I clearly love this country, but what was worse?
Yeah, but it's like all wars are being manipulated by the same guys. The super rich, they're backing both. So if we got to control those guys, we wouldn't have to do things like Pearl Harbor or World War II or World War I or it's these super wealthy guys who are manipulating politicians from behind the scenes. That's what we can get rid of. That's who we should bomb.
It's kind of a silly question because you go, now that we know about Hitler, was it justified to let Pearl Harbor happen? And it's like, yeah, but they were funding Hitler. Hitler didn't need to happen in the first place, right? It's kind of it's the chicken or the egg, and it's like, well, we got to have the chicken. It's like, well, where'd the egg come from? It's who was funding Hitler? A bunch of guys on Wall Street. Why the hell are we doing that? Well, you got to understand World War I. Well, who's behind World War I? Well, it was Krupp, and they were, not only did they own the artillery, they also owned the patent for barbed wire. And you're like, wait, hold on, how the fuck is all this shit happening? It goes farther and farther back, right? Yeah, no.
Got to get rid of the influence of the secret societies that are setting up all these wars.
And then well, how realistic is that? Not very realistic at all. And then it comes back to the initial thing. Well, at least you have to, at the very least, get people talking about it. And that's what your book does. I think that's what Nick Bryant, author of the Franklin Scandal, I mean, that was the original Pizzagate, right? And Pizzagate's a negative term. It's associated with QAnon and kind of hysteria, but that was the original evidence of a pedophile ring being used to control politicians. It's Nick Bryant. It's called the Franklin Scandal. Go get it. He's an esteemed author. He said on an interview, at the end of it, they're like, how realistic is it that this is going to be brought down if we're talking about the most powerful people on earth? And I think he said something along the lines of, I won't bring it down, and it probably won't happen in my lifetime. But with everything, as with going to AA, the very first thing you do is you say, I have a problem. You have to diagnose it. And that's what your book helps do is, are you and I going to bring it down? Probably not going to happen in our lifetimes. But you are shifting it. And however little my show does to draw people to your book, it's shifting it to like, hey man, this stuff does happen. This isn't tinfoil hat, you're smoking a bong. No, man, powerful people are absolutely orchestrating nothing less than crimes against humanity, decade in and decade out.
Maybe slowly but surely, people will become aware of that, and maybe 50 years, 100 years, they'll march on Washington, get rid of these guys, and we'll truly have a good society instead of one being manipulated by bad guys.
Yeah.
And slowly but surely, everybody will wake up.
Yeah. And it is, yeah, man, that's kind of a depressing thing to get into, but that is what it is. Can you maybe, so let's also just move forward a couple years. Could you maybe speak on the evidence that that Vietnam, that the Gulf of Tonkin, all of that was fomented?
Yeah, I read a little about that in the introduction to my book. Yeah, that's what happened. They were the American ship said, North Vietnam threw some torpedoes at us. But then about an hour later, he was telling the White House, no, we're mistaken. They didn't do that. But Lyndon Johnson got on TV that night anyway and said, yeah, they threw torpedoes at us. We have a right to go attack Vietnam. That started the Vietnam War. It was something that wasn't true. It's proven now that it wasn't true, you know? So this is another example of corruption of government, you know? There's a guy, a journalist named I.F. Stone. He's very respectable. He wrote a book once, All Governments Are Run by Liars and Nothing They Say Should Be Believed. But I talk a little about the Tonkin. Yeah, it's a false flag. They didn't, North Vietnamese did not launch torpedoes at our ship. And Johnson knew that, but he started the Vietnam War anyway. Just like 9/11 probably was an inside job and started the war on terror, you know?
Let's dive into that, because that's one where you have the example of, right, it's because they almost try to pull the too soon thing. Like, oh, come on, man. But if we're looking at this stuff, if we're gonna bring up World War II, if we're gonna bring up Vietnam, you have to start looking at it and go, why were we there for 20 years? Why do you have these glaring things like Project for a New American Century? Why do you have all these things lying out there? And you have this weird thing where on the morning of September 11th, they're running a military operation called Vigilant Guardian, where hijacked civilian airline planes crash into targets. You got to start asking yourself, like, and it's anyone that think, you know, it's disrespectful. Yeah, man, I've interviewed firefighters who were there at Ground Zero and who lost friends. This isn't disrespect. This is asking some very obvious questions, like, why did it happen? And I'm not saying I know the answer. And that's another kind of important thing that you kind of get into in your book, is by calling something out and by not necessarily believing the official story, that doesn't mean that you know that you are saying, and I know for a fact what happened. All it is saying, hey man, I think your parents come home and the couch is torn in half, all the liquor's gone, and there's a hole in the wall. And you and your brothers are 16. And you go, yeah, a deer broke into the house and went crazy. Your parents might not have, you know, cameras that can document everything, but they're using their brains and they're going, a deer didn't come in here. What happened? And that's kind of how I look at some of these things, as I go, I don't know who did what, but I know that's not what happened. Can you maybe, let's jump into 9/11. Can you maybe, was it they did it? Was it they let it happen? Was it Pearl Harbor 2.0? Was it completely fabricated? What do you think?
I think I think the government very well could have arranged it to happen for an excuse to get into the war in the Middle East, take control of the Middle East. The first interview in my book is Pearl Harbor. The last interview is about 9/11, the new Pearl Harbor. You know, a lot of people say, how would they get bombs in the building? Because that's a conspiracy theory. That's a logical theory. How could the buildings come down unless there were bombs in there? But how could they sneak them in? And I don't know if you know this, but the security firm that was in charge of the World Trade Center was run by George Bush's brother and his cousin. So, you know, make of that what you will.
Yeah.
So, I think I personally think they probably did it to have an excuse to attack the Middle East. there were a lot of top-ranking CIA officials, military officials, who thought the same thing. You know, this guy Ray McGovern, he was on top of CIA.
I've had Ray on here like 10 times.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
He said, "Does it strain believability to say that Dick Cheney stood down and let the military let America be attacked?" Not at all. He's capable of that. So a lot of top military officials believe it was an inside job, not just crazy conspiracy theorists.
Yeah. No, you don't have to believe me and Douglas. It's you don't have to, just look at what happened. And again, it's like, it's setting up, you know, did someone make money? Yeah, a lot of people made money. You know, was this advancing America's interests? You're goddamn right. Not only were we sitting on top of oil, we were also geographically, it was an excuse to have a standing military right next, approximately, not right, but in comparison to our own shores, pretty close to Russia and China, right? Now, we don't need an excuse. We already have bases everywhere. But if you want to talk about an additional couple 100,000 troops and armament, we're right there, and we're over the oil, and, you know, we're right there next to Saudi Arabia in case they're thinking about doing anything. A lot of people.
Cheney's company got a big contract.
Yeah, don't forget Halliburton and KBR, Kellogg, Brown and Root, the largest war con company, war construction, where you're not necessarily involved specifically in weapons, but you're doing things like building bases or rebuilding towns that you blew to smithereens. I mean, he's the vice president. He's the former CEO of Halliburton. Like, I mean, and when I'm laughing, I often do this when talking about conspiracies. This isn't, I'm not laughing at it. It's an involuntary reaction at just how in your face it is.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So obvious that there are bombs inside the building, you know.
Sure.
It couldn't have collapsed that way. A plane hits the top, the plane wouldn't collapse, the building wouldn't collapse. And so, but does the media report that? No. And so everybody thinks the planes caused the collapse of the building, but it's impossible.
And I'm
in our face.
And I'm a little less well versed. But wasn't not only the security company, but wasn't there like an elevator firm that was like the company was founded? They had one job, and it was examining all of the elevators in the World Trade Center complex for like the 3 previous months, and then after that it was dissolved.
Oh, I never heard about that one, but
I'm not as well versed in it. I do know. What about that art group, Gelatin? Remember? Yeah, they had unrestricted access to the building for the floors where the planes hit, and you can look up, type, anybody listening, Google E-Team 9/11, and you'll see where it was an art thing, right? That's what they claimed, and their whole art thing was, I think they removed one window and they put this wooden plank, and they put something on it, like a pot of flowers or something. Whatever. It's modern art. It's all stupid. But what that does show, that'd be like if I broke into the Oval Office and left a dog toy on the Oval Office. People were like, yeah, what's the problem? He left a dog toy. Anyone with a brain would go, how the hell did he get into the Oval Office? And why is he not in Guantanamo Bay now? That's how I look at E-Team. I go, you can remove a window of the World Trade Center next to World Trade Center 7, which was the head of emergency response for all of New York, including headquarters, including a center for NSA, FBI, CIA. You can get in the World Trade Center and remove a window. And this is allegedly 8 years after they already tried to blow it up once. That's a pretty big flex.
Yeah, really. Looks like, Anthony Fauci funded the Wuhan lab, but that's
yeah,
that's coincidence.
So what do you obviously? So I love conspiracies, and as you can probably tell with this, I'm talking a lot because I get very excited, and if I talk a lot, that's the biggest compliment I can give to a guest, because I'm excited to do it. Why do you think some of this stuff is so obvious? It's so in your face. Is it cognitive dissonance? You can't possibly. That couldn't be it. Well, why is that?
Because they have control of the press, and they know that they control the press. The deep state, the guys who are pulling off all these conspiracies, the press is controlled by their corporations or by their think tanks, and so they're laughing at us because they know the truth isn't going to get out. But the common citizens, people who don't go to your show or read my book, they don't know. My sisters and brothers, they go to CNN and New York Times. So I try to explain this stuff to them. They have they do it in our face because they know the majority is going to be duped. I think the majority is going to be fooled.
And I really do think that there is an important, and not just because I like them, but I think there really is an importance to people like you that go out and show you the facts and figures. They show you the interviews. They provide the documents, because so much of it is simply social outcasting that is such a powerful deterrent. And it may sound silly. You might say, oh, no, a real deterrent is a gun to the head. Sure. Go and bring up, anybody listening, go and start bringing up JFK or 9/11 around friends. And when they start kind of chuckling and get a load of this guy, tell me how you feel. It doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel good. I interview a lot of doctors. It's not as crazy now, but rewind this 2 years ago. Yeah, it's, you have people like, yeah, and Tommy thinks it's a lab leak. Yeah, it's an effective way to make you feel like an idiot. You start blushing, you start getting angry, and you start asking yourself, why the hell am I even doing this? Why am I not just trying to get laid? Why don't I just shut up? But it's an effective thing. I mean, you bring up any of this stuff, it's an effective thing. And really the only way to counter it is to show up with the receipts. And that's what you do. And that is worthwhile. It's not a frivolous pursuit.
I think more and more people are becoming awake, so that's good. Well, yeah. I think the CIA, they had a specific program right after the Kennedy assassination to spread the word around to their media outlets that conspiracy theory is a pejorative term, and it was a very successful program. It's written about in a book called Conspiracy Theory in America by DeHaven Smith. Right after the Kennedy assassination, the CIA used all their media outlets to spread the word that conspiracy theory or conspiracy theorists are kooky, crazy people, and that's it's still effective. I think it's still that's what you're talking about,
It is. I mean, and you can find the actual document saying that in itself is not a conspiracy, right? And you got to hand it to them. You got to respect your enemy. They're good at making you sound crazy. Tommy, you're a conspiracy theorist. Did you know that the term conspiracy theory was created by the CIA? They're like, dude, shut up. But it's true. It is what it is, right? I was hanging out with my cousin and some of my brothers not that long ago, and we were up somewhere in New England, and there's this old like broken down building, and like in the 1920s, it was like a place for like super rich people to go hang out. It was just an escape from the city. And I don't mean like moderately wealthy. I mean like you can still find the telegraph wires from like where they're checking their stocks, and you can find like these moors where they had float planes come land and deliver lobsters and champagne. You got to think 1920s up in the middle of the mountains. That's your vacation spot. And you still have the ability to check your stock prices in the 20s. That's money. That ain't nothing. And they're all from Manhattan. They're all, we're part of like the Metropolitan Club, the Knickerbocker Club. They're all there. And me and my cousin were just joking about like, that was some real money. And
they got a lot of places like that.
Yeah. But we were joking. I was like, think about that. That's 25 years before World War II. My cousin goes, dude, these were probably the guys that were started World War II. I was like, probably. And like one of my brothers just goes, God damn it. And he was like, I just ignore you when you start talking about this stuff. And I was just like, I just started like yelling at him. I was like, dude, I was like, you can find these documents like E.H. Harriman, Kuhn Loeb. You can find these things that helped fund. But again, you're up hanging out with your family and everyone just starts rubbing their temples like, Tom, will you shut up? But it's provable U.S. history. You ever bring up Genghis Khan? You ever bring up the American Revolution? No one cares because it's an accepted event. But you start talking about other stuff in which there are facts, there are documents. You can find this stuff. You can find these interviews. It's so effective that I'm talking about it several weeks later and telling you, right? Because it's very effective to just try to embarrass someone.
I think more and more people are getting woke up. I think Trump is hip to all the conspiracies, and because he's hip to a lot of them, and because of Trump, the deep state is a mainstream term now. Fake news is a mainstream term. So I hope he gets in there again. You think so?
Yeah, I hope he does. That is something that he did effectively. His very presence, you don't have to like him. I personally like Trump. I know a lot of people hate him. That's fine, whatever. You can't deny that a lot of the things that remained that were in the shadows were confirmed. When you have Democrats and Republicans both coming out and attacking him, you know, the no one had really the deep state, the fact that that's become a mainstream term is the most psychedelic thing ever. You bring up that term 10 years ago and it's right, you're up there with talking about the Bilderbergs. And now it was so obvious that they all came out against him. When you have like Dick Cheney and George Bush, you know, linking arm in arm with Chuck Schumer and Hillary Clinton and attacking one guy. Well, now you start looking at the uniparty, right? When you see him try to, remove us from Syria and people start losing their minds about the Kurds, it starts to bring a little more evidence to the permanent war state. His very presence, I think, brought, real meat to the idea that this infinitely powerful warmongering entrenched power structure does exist.
Yeah, really. In many ways, I think the internet woke up a lot of people because the internet is a free and open exchange, And I think the MAGA movement and Trump are a product of that. I think Trump listened to Alex Jones a lot, and a lot of his politics comes from Alex Jones, I think. But the one thing he's got wrong now is he says the vaccine is okay. I don't know. That's the one thing I disagree with him about.
That is the needle, or not the needle. That's the splinter I have with, and I like Trump. I openly talk about him. I don't like that. And some people are like, he's playing 5D chess. I'm like, yeah, I'm not sure if I'm willing to give him that out. Why do you think that is? Why do you think he's still pushing it? Do you think it's ego?
Why does he support the vaccine?
Why does he still support the vaccine?
I can't figure it out. I heard he took $1 million from Pfizer, but I don't know if that's it. But if it is, then he's the very opposite thing what he says. He says he's a president of the people, not of the special interests. I don't think it's that. I think maybe he's just mistaken because he's against the New World Order. He made a speech at the United Nations. He said the future is for patriots, not globalists.
It's nationalism.
He was spitting in the face of the New World Order, and he cleaned up all the free trade agreements. But jobs came back. He's, brave enough to talk about how elections are rigged. Brave enough to talk about how Kennedy was killed by a conspiracy. He talks a lot about the conspiracies, but why he doesn't understand that the vaccine is dangerous, I can't figure it out. I don't know what's going on there, but I hope somebody straightens him out.
Yeah, it's a red flag for me because I look at it in one of two ways. I go either he is not who he says he is, and now I'm the idiot for voting for him, or he hasn't figured it out yet, in which case I go, well, then how is he not that bright? So to me, it's a bit of a red flag that I can't quite ignore. And not to completely go down, politics right now. We can stick to the book if you'd like, but your thoughts on Bobby Kennedy?
Oh man, I like Bobby Kennedy Jr., right?
Yeah. Excuse me. Yeah.
I like him. He seems really good. If Trump doesn't get in there, maybe we'll do all right with Bobby Kennedy Jr. I was watching him. He really understands how industry, big business corrupts Washington, and he seems like he wants to clean it up, And I heard him say his father once told him that government officials lie and they lie often, And so I think he wants to clean up that corruption. Seems like a good guy. I don't believe in big government or big taxes. I hope he's not into that. But he seems like a non-establishment guy,
Yeah. When was the book published? What year?
Let me see. The end of 2019.
Gotcha. All right. It's about the time I started this show. Then we really haven't gotten into to COVID. What do you think? I full-heartedly believe it was lab made. I'm still not entirely. I haven't made up my mind on whether I think it was China or whether I think it was us trying to frame China. What do you think? What do you think that was? Do you think that was an accident that jumped from the lab? Do you think? Because some people say it's not a very effective bioweapon if it's less than 1% lethal, and I go sure. unless your goal of making a bioweapon is to not have the United States nuke you immediately, you'd make it kind of attenuated. What do you think that was?
I think it was they're probably trying to depopulate us. Really, I think it's intentional, and also they're trying to see how they can control us. Maybe move us into some type of totalitarian. You got to be scared of this. Now you got to be scared of global warming. Everybody getting the UN concentration camps in will keep you safe. How they control us. I think it's in my book I read about how vaccines are bad and how it probably caused the AIDS virus. The AIDS virus. These guys took the vaccine, and right after that, AIDS broke out. They were trying to kill us off then, and they didn't kill it enough. Back then, Anthony Fauci was in charge of what to do about AIDS, and he recommended this drug, AZT, which was extremely toxic, and it killed more people than AIDS. Now, Anthony Fauci, he's recommending remdesivir for COVID patients, and it's extremely toxic. It's the same thing. But now Fauci retired because he knows everybody's onto him, and he doesn't want to get arrested.
Yeah, he's making his graceful exit. So one thing I do during every show is at some point I run and use the restroom, and I hand the show over to you. So I'll be back in 30 seconds. Doug, please tell everybody where to find you, where to find your book, website, all that good stuff.
All right. My website's American Conspiracies and Cover-Ups.com. I got to put a slash between cover and ups. And you can get it on Amazon, American Conspiracies and Cover-Ups.com. And you can look for my Twitter page. I think it's US Conspiracies 1. And my book's on Amazon, selling a lot on Amazon, getting a lot of good reviews. So it's interviews, so they read fast and they're fun to read. It's got a lot of good information in there. Interview Jim Mars on the New World Order, G. Edward Griffin on the Federal Reserve, Noam Chomsky on the media, David Ray Griffin on 9/11. Might be one of his last interviews because he died. Bev Harris, expert on stolen elections. And 12 altogether, 12 interviews. American Conspiracies and Cover-Ups.com. Where'd he go?
I'm right here.
All right.
Yeah, I do that every show. That is one of the benefits of doing this podcast from my residence is I can just get up and go to the restroom. Right now, what do you think the reasoning is behind, so my gut, I think you and I are pretty much on the same wavelength. My gut feeling is whenever something monumentous is happening with the US government at the center, it's several things, and doesn't have to be all of them, and it also doesn't have to just be one of them, but it's we're getting fucked in a new way. Number 2 is we're getting ready for a new war, or number 3 is we're restructuring the Overton window of acceptance in terms of cracking down on our liberties. Why do you think they're coming out kind of out of nowhere and just saying they have possession of alien craft and alien bodies? That's an odd one.
Yeah, I heard some people talking about that. Maybe they wanted to get away from how corrupt Biden is. They wanted another story, because it's really Biden's really being exposed now, for the criminal he is. So I heard maybe they're doing it for that, to try to get attention away from Biden's crimes. Well, I don't know. I think there probably are UFOs.
Oh, so do I. But that is the ace card of distractions. UFOs, alien tech. That is the biggest. That is your, break glass in case of emergency, right? You pull out smaller ones for other stuff. You pull out, oh, they're terrorists. You pull out anthrax. You pull out a respiratory virus. You pull out, Patriot Front, whatever. You pull out Timothy McVeigh, whatever you want. Man, pulling out the UFO card, that's something you pull out to justify why JFK was shot. It's a little odd that they're pulling it out now.
Yeah, I heard one time, I think Henry Kissinger, he said at a Bilderberg meeting, he said, maybe we can get to the New World Order if we scare everybody, say we're being attacked by aliens. So
Hmm.
everybody listen to the government and move into concentration camps. I mean,
Hmm.
that's what he said once. I don't know if that's what's going on, but
Hmm.
it's a pretty big one.
Hmm.
You think the moon landings were fake? I
I,
didn't write about that.
no, you didn't. I don't know about that, and I've revisited. And I have no anyone that knows even 1% of the show knows I have zero reticence to get into any. I don't care. Um, the whole social outcasting thing stopped working when I started this podcast. I just don't care. Um, my reasoning for thinking it's real is that I get the idea for why it would be faked, not just technologically, but let's say it really is a psyop against the Soviet Union. We're in a Cold War where we spent trillions of dollars over 4.5 decades. Yeah, it's not too crazy to think that you would fake this to get the Soviets to spend more money into the ground and end the Cold War. I get it. I get that entirely. The Soviets had adequate radar. They absolutely would have publicized that there was not a rocket going to the moon. They had adequate radio. They actually crashed unsuccessfully. It wasn't meant to. They crashed one of their rovers on the moon about a week before Armstrong walked on it. So it's not that this was some out of reach thing that they couldn't get near. They were ahead of us in the space race for a while. I I think they would have showed it. I think that current day China would use some high resolution satellite photo and show that there's no landing. I think there's so much impetus, there's so much incentive for our nearest competitors or our nearest enemies to release evidence because it's not something like JFK or 9/11 where you can burn all the documents. The moon's just there. Just go find the absence of footprints. Go find go find the absence of a lunar lander. And it's not even that it's like they know the exact area. We told you where we landed. Sea of Tranquility. You have the exact pinpointed spots. How come no one is where's the do you know what I'm
Where's the
saying?
picture? Where's the pictures that prove it, though? You know,
Oh,
China.
sure.
Yeah. So
Sure.
you think we went there?
I think we went there because I really don't see again, I get the idea of it. You're trying to win the Cold War and bankrupt them. Some people say, well, we went there, we used it as an excuse to spend money on the Apollo program. Man, we spent like 15 times more money in Vietnam. Like that's not the they have no problem. Military industrial complex, it's not like 9/11 where they got 20 years of unlimited funding. This was a couple years of a marginal increase in NASA's budget. It didn't result in a crackdown on US civil liberties. It didn't result in a draft. It didn't result in us saying we landed on the moon and now we need to invade Cuba. Nothing nothing came of it. It's not that NASA became this bloated agency that over the next 50 years. No, they were slimmed down drastically, almost almost to death that they get such a small percentage of what they have now. All space programs went to United States Space Command and the Air Force, and then obviously Space Force under Trump. All of the things that we've talked about that you talk about in your book for evidence of conspiracies. Who's there to make money? Who's there to benefit? What laws are being passed? What country are we invading? None of it's there.
Oh,
So that's my 2 cents. Again, I don't care. I'll openly talk about how Dick Cheney took down the World Trade Center. Like this isn't some like I don't know if I want to go there. Like I don't care. I just
yeah.
I don't see the. What do you think?
Yeah, maybe it's not that important. Maybe that's why I didn't write about it. Other conspiracies, like the Federal Reserve System,
Yes,
that's
perfect
important.
perfect example. They've
Yeah.
they've run the table. They have screwed you out of 99% of the dollar's worth. There's a conspiracy.
Yeah.
There's someone who's making money.
It's
Yeah.
important too. It's not whether or not they went to the moon. It's not that important, I guess. Although if it is fake, shows you how full of bullshit the government and the media can be. But
Oh no.
there's more important things to talk about, probably.
Yeah. No. That is it is valuable to find out whether or not they did, right because I believe we went. it would be very important if it came out that we didn't. I would have to sit here and go, I thought I'm a pretty open-minded guy who tackled conspiracies, and even I was duped. That would lead to me having to dig deeper. Like, I get it. I get that importance. It just, it didn't lead to anything. Like, where are the massive defense contracts? It all shriveled up. It all died out. Did it result in a militarization of the moon? We got to go there so the Soviets don't. We need $1 trillion a year, or none of it happened. It led to treaties. After that, there's the nuclear test ban treaty. There's the demilitarization of space. The International Space Station, it's not even ours. We scrapped the shuttle. Nothing happened.
You never had that guy Bart Sibrel on your show?
What's the last name?
Sibrel. He's like the leading advocate of the theory that we didn't go to the moon.
No, I haven't.
Interesting for you. He's got a book out. It's probably be interesting for your show. It'd probably go on.
I'd love to have him on. Yeah,
it's Sibrel.
Yeah, it's.
One time he was telling Buzz Aldrin, the second guy supposedly got on the moon, you're a liar, you're a liar, you didn't go.
Oh, he's the guy that punched in the face. That's not funny. Yeah, I've had on Charlie Duke 4 times. He's one of 4 men alive that walked on the moon. He was on Apollo 16. He's the youngest guy ever. He was 35, which kind of I just turned 33. Definitely kind of put your life in perspective. I'm like 33. I'm doing a podcast, yelling at a camera in my bedroom. He was walking on the moon. All right, kind of put you down. But
when did he walk on the moon?
Apollo 16. So was that the last one? I think that was the last one. I think so. Late in the space program.
Well, when he was 35, he walked on the moon.
Oh yeah. No, when he was 35.
He's 35 now. Oh, okay.
Oh no, if you said no, he's 35 now, I walked on the moon, I can see you like, Tommy, you're an idiot. No. He's almost 90. But I've had him on. I mean, his book is free. He's not out plugging his book. His takeaway from it was it turned him back towards faith in God, because after you walk on the moon, what else is there to do? He came back and he bought some, I think he bought a couple Anheuser-Busch warehouses or factories and was just making money doing that and selling beer. But he was like, this is nothing compared to walking on the moon. He stayed at NASA for a little while and worked on the space shuttle. But even then, I walked on the moon.
No, he says he walked on the moon. This idea we didn't go to the moon is nonsense.
That's to him, it's to nonsense. But even then, so my point is, I'm even looking at him like, what is his takeaway? It's not like he comes on my show and is like, and this is why the U.S. government needs $1 trillion. No, his takeaway was it brought him closer to God. I guess I don't see, if 9/11 happened and nothing happened after that, I would start to question. I'm like, I don't think that's a conspiracy. Like the Boston bombing, right? A lot of fishy stuff around that, but nothing happened in the wake of that, right? Where were the gun laws? What happened there? Nothing happened in the wake of it, which is why when I look at it, I go, if nothing massive happened, there's no massive switch in contracting, right? What happened after COVID was the greatest upward transfer of wealth in human history, right? We completely normalized the censoring of social media for the greater good. We completely normalized pushing untested vaccines and no liability for these massive corporations. We completely switched all of this to digital passports for getting on planes where you can't go into these different venues, sports venues. You can't go pick up your kids. You can't visit your dying parent. A lot happened with COVID, which makes me believe that it was intentional.
So you need a motive for a conspiracy. I guess that's
yeah.
I guess you do.
I guess I don't see. Nothing happened with the moon landing.
I thought maybe in the 60s, like the country was coming apart, or the counterculture was against the Vietnam War, so they wanted to unify us, and so they made the theory is true. They faked going to the moon, and it made people maybe forget about the Vietnam War. I don't know. Maybe that's the reason. I don't know.
No, I think that's a reasonable hypothesis. It's a form of unification. We have to go to the moon by the end of this decade, not because it is easy, but because it is hard. Get everyone believing again in something, right? We got to go do the thing. We got to beat the Soviets. Yeah, sure. I get it. I get it, but
Mm.
it's not even like after that. It's not like we got rid of the moon landing and then we're like, well, we need to do something with these rockets, so we invented ICBMs. We already had ICBMs. We had already, we already brought the Nazis back. We had already had the ability to deliver nuclear weapons. I guess if we had set like, sorry,
You have that guy Cyber on, and I'd like to see you debate it with him. He's the
I'll
guy who
have them
says
on.
he didn't go. Yeah,
Yeah,
Bart Sibrel. I'm
yeah,
sure he just wrote a book too. So
I'd love
I'd
to.
like to see that. I'd like to see you guys debate that.
I'd love to because again, I have no vested interest in this. It's not like It's not like you look up my podcast and you realize 90% of the episodes are talking about me going to the moon. You're like, well, Tommy has a financial reason to keep this. I don't care. It means nothing to me. I don't care. It just, I guess I just don't see that one. Um,
You care about other conspiracies.
yeah. Well, I care about ones in which there's something to grab onto, right?
Yeah.
Like, like you and I, it is pointless for you and I to debate how many wives King Tut had. We're never gonna find any doc. The only things that exist is a golden sarcophagus and some stones inscripted with things. You and I aren't figuring that one out. But conspiracies within the last 100 years, there's pictures, there's video, there are communications, there are telegrams, there are documents, there are fingerprints, and there's things that directly affect our lives. Right? My parents were alive during the Kennedy assassination. I remember 9/11. I did this podcast right at the beginning of COVID. These are current things that have an effect on your life. It has to be.
Was the election stolen? And
Yes.
if Trump runs again, can he prevent it from being stolen?
No.
That's important.
That's a very important thing.
Well, if he runs again, Biden, they just steal it again unless he does something, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you think it was stolen, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think and I'm not even not even some like registered Republican. When I was 18, I voted for Obama because I was a dipshit and wanted hope and change. When I was 22, I voted for Romney because I was pre-med, just got into medical school, and I didn't want Obamacare. In 2016, I voted for Bernie because 2 years prior, I lost a brother to suicide. My older brother committed suicide, and Bernie was on this whole thing about free mental health care. And I was like, I think that's important. I didn't vote in the 2016 election. My life was too fucked up. 2020, I voted for Trump because I liked the idea of no more endless wars, and I thought the riots that summer were a taste of what was to come. I have no, again, like the moon, I have no vested interest in defending one side or the other. My, to me, it doesn't matter who ran in 2020. When one candidate was leading, and the vote counting stopped in 5 or 6 swing states, all at the same time, in the middle of the night, and then all subsequent votes coming in were like 99.9%. Regardless, that's probabilistically impossible
I know.
for
I
one
went to
person.
sleep. I went to sleep thinking Trump won.
I stayed up. It was like 4 a.m. and I was like screenshotting it, and I was watching like my liberal friends freak out. I can't believe this fucking Nazi won again. And then I just remember like different shows I was watching. I remember I was playing video games, and like I was gonna wrap it up, and I started hearing these different shows being like, "That's weird." So accounting just stopped in Georgia, but whatever. So it looks like the next president will be Donald J. And then like another show I was watching was like, so voting stopped in Pennsylvania. And I think when the third one happened, was it like Ohio or something? That's when and I was like, "Oh shit!" Like something's happening, something slimy's happening. And then over the next couple days, you just start seeing the ticker go the other way, and it was like you're watching a train crash in slow motion. You're like, they're taking it from him. They're taking it from him.
How can he prevent that this time? He's got. I think the Republicans have some sort of plan of getting everybody to vote beforehand to make sure their votes are counted. So maybe the Republican Party is going to do something about it because now that's a conspiracy that's
That's a modern.
that's important and pertinent. How can we not let them steal the election again?
Yeah, no, that's a modern conspiracy that is very valuable to talk about. I think that was the equivalent of, it's like I believe they removed Nixon, but it was too soon after JFK. They couldn't shoot another guy. So they did, right? They did the Watergate burglary with a bunch of burglars who apparently were just fumbling, bumbling idiots. Yet it happened that they all worked for the CIA and were masters of this stuff, and they just that's like drafting Tom Brady, and then he just has 10 fumbles a game. You're like, what the fuck? No, he didn't.
Yeah. Was
Yeah,
that Rockefeller trying to get the presidency? You know, Rockefeller wouldn't want to be president, and so he was vice president, and then Ford, you know, Ford took over, and then Ford made Rockefeller vice president. You know, Rockefeller always wanted to be president, and
yeah,
then two people tried to shoot Ford,
yeah,
and if they didn't miss, then Rockefeller would have had the presidency. So
yeah,
maybe Watergate was all about Rockefeller taking the presidency.
yeah. It was again. I'm not sure why they did it. This isn't something that I know, but it does seem like he was removed, and I think that's how they removed Trump. I think there's a comedian that goes, "Yeah, they stole the 2020 election." And that's the sweetest way they've ever removed a president. They normally shoot you in front of your wife in a Cadillac. This time they just wrote a bunch of mail-in ballots.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they can't shoot him anymore. That's too uncouth.
it's far too obvious. You can't do that with anyone anymore. It's way too obvious. I think they removed him. I think they removed him because one, he was just spitting in the face of the intelligence community and the media, which really are one and the same. But I think the biggest thing is he was trying to stop us from an endless war, and I don't think that flies with the power structure.
Yeah, really, really. That
So
was a good thing Trump was doing. He really felt that America gets into too many bullshit wars and it should stop. Right? It's
yeah,
really an admirable thing of him. You know.
yeah,
Mm.
yeah, and they got rid of him, and I don't know
Well,
I don't know how he would I don't know how any candidate could prevent election fraud. It's been normalized with 2020 and 2022 that elections take a week and we've got a and it's this whole thing has changed to where it's like, what are they doing? It's, oh, well, it looks like he's losing his. I mean, I've heard people talk about it. They're like, we just need another 3 a.m. miracle. And it's like, that's not a 3 a.m. miracle. It's called fraud and treason. Oh, you need a 3 a.m. miracle isn't a bottom of the ninth grand slam. It's fraud. It's the only way we'll ever find out what happened with the 2020 election. This is kind of, I've thought about it, and this is really the only answer I can come up with. It would be if a person or a group of people within the Pentagon, DOD, saw an opportunity to get power themselves. And by that I mean, if let's say the NSA came out and showed irrefutable proof of electronic tampering, involvement with the voting, whatever. Right? Let's just say they do that, and they use the emergency broadcast thing. They take every screen in the United States and go, here's a 10-hour C-SPAN presentation on how the 2020 election was stolen. If they did that, and maybe I'm just jaded and nihilistic, if they did that, it wouldn't be because they're trying to be patriotic or to reinstall Trump because he rightfully won. It would be a bunch of people going, this is the perfect opportunity for a military coup. The presidency's been stolen. Joe Biden's owned by China. I don't see them doing it because they're patriotic and they're doing the right thing. I think you see a bunch of guys who are probably like, the headline is getting old. Now it's time to strike. I want to run the pride. I want to control the empire. That's the only way it will happen. And that's not a very good outcome.
Yeah.
I don't know. What do you think?
You know, maybe if somebody government admitted it, but I think the Republicans, they have a plan now to try to defeat the voter fraud, and I hope they do it. Either that or Joe Biden. Is he going to run again? I mean, the guy can't even.
They'll get rid of him.
Oh yeah,
I don't think the Democrats want him.
yeah. Because maybe he'll be so unpopular that the vote difference is so large they can't steal it. So maybe that'll happen. That'll be good.
I think that would probably be the best case scenario where it's not a military coup. I think in 2020, and then we'll wrap it up with this because we're coming up on an hour. I think in 2020, I've thought about this a lot. I think some people truly believe Biden won. I think there are a lot of people who probably are looking at it and going, yeah, it did stop in the middle of the night. But I think they truly hated Trump so much, and they truly thought that he was such a threat to the very idea of a republic that they went, you know what? It's like an extrajudicial killing. It's like the pedophile gets off and he goes to jail, then he gets stabbed. Nobody cries. They go, "Oh, boo-hoo." That's not that's not a fair trial. But at the same time, who gives a shit? You raped a kid. Hey, you got stabbed in prison. Oh no. Boo-hoo. Like Willy Wonka. Boo-hoo, don't stop. Oh my God, please don't. No one cares. I think enough people, intelligent people, probably have a gut feeling it was stolen, but they hated Trump so much. I don't think that if the economy keeps going south, if inflation keeps massacring the dollar, if de-dollarization continues, I think as things get collectively worse, you're going to have a lot of people who are going to start having an incentive to question it if something happens again in 2024, right? Because people are feeling it in their wallet now. It'll be something like it, basically to what you just said. Enough people might vote against it that even with fraud, they won't be able to take it. I'm not sure.
I hope so.
I'm with you, man. I hope so too.
The economy was so much better with Trump. Jeez. The economy was taking off with him. He's got an ejectional personality. Acts like a seventh grade bully, but I think he's doing the right thing politically.
Oh no, he's an asshole. I wouldn't want to hang out with him, but you know, apparently Michael Jordan was an asshole too. I don't care if I own a basketball franchise. I want Jordan on there dunking from the free throw. I don't care. Is Tom Brady a good dad? I don't give a shit. Give me 7 Super Bowl rings. You know, is George Patton? You know, is he the best guy? I don't know, but you know, he's beating the Nazis, so I don't care.
Yeah.
Same thing. I don't care who's on Delta Force. I don't get the job done, right? I don't care if my financial advisor likes hookers. You know, what are the returns on my portfolio? That's kind of my logic is I don't, and who knows, man, that might be RFK's strong point is he has a lot of the same points as Trump, but he's polished. You know,
he's polished. He's less of a asshole than Trump.
He's not out there screaming. And again, I personally think Trump was funny. I just got a kick out of it. But you know, RFK Jr. is a more polished version of Trump, which unfortunately you do need. So I don't know, man. I don't know. But dude, I'm happy we finally got this one on the books. I know we've been playing tag back and forth to get this done. We finally got it. Guys, I really can't recommend the book enough. If not for anything, the Splendid Arrangement. I think that's such a fantastic that I hadn't heard anywhere before. And I read about a book a week, and I have been doing that for 2 years now. I'd never heard anything about the Splendid Arrangement. So for that reason alone, I would give your book the recommendation for people to go grab. But also just go grab it, man. Go support Douglas. He's clearly a cool dude.
Thanks. Yeah, it's a book interview, so it's fun to read. Reads fast.
It's not a tome. It's not. I read The Devil's Chessboard and what's the other one? Devil's Chessboard and Family Secrets by Russ Baker and David Talbot. I don't remember who did which one. Those are good, man, but those are tomes. You feel like you're going through the Library of Alexandria. Those books drag on. Yours is a very digestible book. It's very doable. So, guys, I would recommend it if you're just looking for kind of an introduction to certain conspiracies. I'd go for it because they're modern and they show that this stuff does happen. And I think that's the first step in perhaps moving your own mind to a more open, receptive state to wonder what else is going on. So that's the best review I can give of it, and I highly recommend people go grab it.
Thanks a lot.
Yes, sir. Mr. Cirignano, I will email you this episode. Thank you so much for coming on here. I would love to have you on again sometime.
All right. Good talking to you.
Thank you, sir. You as well.
Good, you got enough sleep today, right?
What? Yeah. No, right. The last one, I was like, dude, I can't do it. I slept for an hour. I'm got it all. I think I slept like 12 hours last night, so I was good for today. But
all right.
Dude, thank you so much. Guys, please go grab the book. Mr. Cirignano, till next time.